What's up, everybody? Brett here, back today with some more news for Total War Warhammer 3. And this time it's going to be the Grand Cathay roster reveal. Why didn't I get this video out sooner? Well, the battery in my truck died this morning, and that kind of took precedent. I had a kind of a no YouTube, no news watching morning, action-packed, unfortunately, with negative things. But as soon as I went on YouTube, I was like, oh no, all the info dropped and I missed it. But guys, I hope you still enjoy chilling with me. I'm going to read the stuff so you don't have to. We're going to speculate, we're going to talk, and yeah, just relax and cross our fingers that the roster is sick. So I skimmed it briefly. So I guess I don't have to cross my fingers because I already kind of know what the roster is. I will start by saying that there is no groundbreaking news in this that I saw. I skimmed it. There's no units that we didn't know about that weren't previously shown, especially if you're like me and you were like, man, pouring through the ancient texts and watching all the videos in slow motion to try and catch all the coolest potential new units, then you saw everything. You've seen it. But we do have names for things that we didn't have names for. We have some descriptions for things we didn't have descriptions for, and we are going to get into that right now. Okay, so welcome back to TotalWar.com. You waited too long for this one. Nice acknowledgement there to the community who has indeed been waiting. Grand Cathay is here, and in this roster reveal, we'll be taking you through each unit, lord, and hero the Eastern Empire has to offer, from what Games Workshop has created. They are a humongous, powerful nation capable of fending off attacks from every angle, including the swarms of chaos that inhabit the northern wastes. They believe, and it's hard to disagree, that should they fail, should the great bastion fall and Grand Cathay be laid to ruin, all the world will be doomed. To prevent this, a legion of highly trained and capable warriors stands ready to fight for their homeland, the Celestial Dragon Emperor and his mightily powerful children, the dragons. They are leaders, generals, and heroes to their people, and the weight of responsibility hangs heavy on their shoulders. We might go and watch this afterwards, because I don't think I didn't make a video on this. I was very busy the day this dropped, once again with other kind of negative but important things. But I did see this trailer. I didn't get a chance to make a video on it. Apologies for that. But we might watch it at the end and just briefly talk about it, and just, we'll see all the units that we're going to talk about now in this trailer. So as a reminder, Total War Warhammer 3 is not a finished game. What you see below is an overview, not the stats of every single unit, and some things may change before release. However, still plenty to dig your teeth into. Absolutely. Although I would not get your hopes up that there are any units that have not been revealed. I think they have lots of ideas for future roster units. And that's something they're going to look into probably with expansions and DLCs and stuff like that. So we're going to get a great skeleton for Kislev like we've seen, for Khorne, some of the stuff that we've seen, and some stuff we've already seen for Tzeentch as well, and Cathay. And, if there's a couple of units missing that are super sweet, expect them to be in DLC. At least that's my thought. So Mao Ying, the Storm Dragon, the first of the legendary lords. She believes herself to be the strongest dragon sibling and lords her power and position of authority as protector of the great bastion over her brothers and sisters. Despite her earned arrogance, she is well aware of the significance of the task laid at her feet to protect Grand Cathay from the hordes of chaos to the north, the constant scheming of the mortal lords Nan-Gao. Her capital and unconquerable home does not make it any easier. As such a powerful and ancient being, she emits an aura of command and majesty that even the mighty heroes find difficult to resist. Interesting. So maybe and this is where the speculation comes in. I think she probably buffs leadership and debuffs leadership, perhaps. Maybe map-wide even. Could be interesting. Her followers seek her favor, and her enemies fear her bite and strong magic. So on the battlefield, she can channel those powers to transform between her dragon and human forms as needed. Both dragons are also masters of the elemental winds. This attribute, which is shared among all Grand Cathay spellcasters, increases the power of all spells cast for each spellcaster in the army. Okay, so they buff each other's winds, and I guess maybe having a bunch of hero spellcasters in your army might buff her casting. This makes taking multiple spellcasters all the more effective for the armies of Grand Cathay, even doubling or better the power of spells should you have enough. Oh, that's sick. Of course, they may not have the army to back them up at that point. That's true. Gelt has some synergies as well for the Empire, with bringing extra lords, extra spellcasting heroes, I should say. And but yeah, you bring too many of those guys, and you could have had some demigryphs or something, or a steam tank. Unique abilities. She has access to a unique selection of spells from the lores of Yin and Life. So we have yet to see lores of Yin revealed. And then a disdain for dragons. All enemies who try to combat Miao Ying will find themselves at a significant disadvantage. Okay, so she probably debuffs anything that fights her. I mean, maybe on contact, maybe it's a small AoE. Think Marathi. Marathi has like serious melee defense, melee attack debuffs whenever you get in her very small, it's like 30 meters, 40 meter aura, something like that. So now we have Zelming the Iron Dragon, who does look pretty sick. I don't know which one I'm going to play first. I thought I would play Mao Ying. I thought I was locked in. But she's sounding more and more like a jerk. And Zelming is sounding more and more interesting the more I read about him. So ruler of the Western Provinces, the Iron Dragon is seen as a much more down-to-earth ruler and commander than his sister. Zelming commands loyalty through comradeship, see that's what I like, as well as his creation and use of powerful artifacts and magic items. He is one of the Empire's premier alchemists and welcomes the same within his realm, much to the chagrin of some of his siblings. So the use of powerful artifacts and magic items, this could be very similar to the Sisters of Twilight's system where they kind of get unique items. It could be similar to the dwarves where they're able to rune craft different items. And there's other crafting systems besides. The High Elves have some as well, like trying to remember his particular Elithanar, I think. I mean, there's all these different events in the game that give you, unique items. So I'm sure he's just have something similar to that. It could be anything along those veins. So proximity to the Warpstone Desert and the Great Maw, still seeping with the destructive magic that created it, has led some to believe his mind is beginning to unravel. Very interesting. And it seems to me he'll be pitted against the ogres, whereas I would expect his sister to be fighting Tzeentch-themed demons. So this would certainly explain some of the odd tendencies and decisions he makes, but it is still far from anything approaching insurrection or dangerous to Grand Cathay. While less favored than his sister by the Celestial Dragon, their mother, the Moon Empress, has a soft spot for Zelming. He's a mama's boy. Both dragons lead their armies with incredible fervor. Their mere presence enough to enhance the harmony and belief of their people to new heights. Non-character Cathayan units all ascribe to either yin or yang, and when close to the opposite, receive buffs. Interesting. So melee yang units becoming more defensive and harder to kill, while ranged yin units fire faster. Lords increase these benefits when they are nearby. So it seems a little, I'm not going to say convoluted, because it's really not that convoluted, but it's one of these things that until I see it in practice, I'm not sure how viable it is as a strategy. I'm not sure how good it is, right? But this is interesting. I mean, I love it. I love anything that gives a little bit more complexity to the battlefield. Between this and the Master of the Elemental Winds attribute, it makes hero spellcasters quite a powerful choice for Grand Cathay armies. There are force multipliers both battlefield-wide and in their area of effect, and proper usage can see massive odds overcome. Unique abilities and skills, Dragon Transformation. Both dragons can also swap forms in the midst of battle, becoming powerful melee units with the ability to fly. And Magic Zelming has access to a unique selection of spells from the lores of Yang and Metal. And then Warding Iron. The Iron Dragon's near invulnerability can be passed on to his nearby troops for a short time. Seems good, man. Alright, we've got Grand Cathay Lords, the Dragon-Blooded Shugengan Lord. Okay. And there's a female and male version, it looks like. Although this could just be a female, but from the back, I don't know. It's hard to tell. While relatively rare, the ancient nature of the dragon siblings means that many own progeny now exist within Grand Cathay. They often rise to positions of power, not least out of respect for their heritage, but also due to the power that comes from being a part of the family. The dragon-blooded, as they are known, are inevitably skilled combatants, natural sorcerers, and talented leaders. As you can imagine, their lineage can be a source of some jealousy and resentment from high-ranking mortals, especially when the dragon-blooded allow their abilities to develop into arrogance. As the magic wielders of Grand Cathay, the dragon-blooded fight with either the lore of Yang or the lore of Yin. Each takes its power from the Celestial Dragon Emperor and is a unique school passed down through the ages. The lore of Yang focuses on buffing allies with resolute belief or disrupting enemies with walls of wind. In particularly dire situations, it can also unleash mighty explosions upon the enemy, bringing with it the power of the Celestial Dragon Emperor himself. Their spells are, and we can only guess what the effects are, Jade Shield, Dragon's Breath, Wall of Wind and Fire, Stone Ground Stance, Might of Heaven and Earth, and Constellation of the Dragon. I could probably guess with some relative accuracy what all these spells do, and I think most of you probably can too if you're familiar with the game, as they have a kind of a similar naming scheme, I'll say, to other spells. The lore of Yin is a more esoteric school with the power to reflect projectiles or summon the ghosts of the dead to assist in battle. Those who practice it can shield their allies behind obfuscation and remove foes in the dead of night. Their spells are Storm of Shadows, Cloak of Jet, Missile Mirror, which I think is something that people have been very excited about, Blossom Wind, Talons of Night, and Ancestral Warriors. I have to say, I'm pretty excited to try these two different lores of magic, especially because they're completely, recently fabricated. And I want to see what CA has done with it. And their potential mounts, Warhorse or the Jade Longbow, which are like the dragon horses that we've seen in some of the trailers. Next up is the Lord Magistrate, so the melee version hero. They look like they made him a little chubby, but that might just be his beautiful silk shirts. Be they generals or lords of one of Grand Cathay's gargantuan cities, magistrates are some of the best the Empire has to offer. While not the greatest single combatants of their nation, they are expert commanders, inspiring and directing their troops with a skill and efficiency that comes only from years of experience in real battles. If they are engaged, they are melee warriors capable of holding their own against most enemies. To me, they already sound like warrior priests for the Empire. In particularly large engagements, magistrates may ride aboard a sky lantern. Oh, that's cool. Commanding their troops from above with a more strategic view of the battlefield. It also, as you can imagine, keeps them somewhat out of harm's way, a priority for some if not all. Their true strength lies in their ability to bring the best of Grand Cathay to the fore, vastly increasing the bonuses received by troops working in harmony with one another. A warhorse or a sky lantern. Interesting. Now we have a chance to look at more heroes, the Alchemist and the Astromancer here, as seen in the trailers. The lores of Yin and Yang are not the only magics practiced in Grand Cathay, though they are the most favored. Alchemists gravitate to the Iron Dragon in the west and the city of Shangyang precisely because he is uncommonly accepting of their talents and practices. Over the years, this has grown into a powerful cabal that often sees its members hired by generals all over the Empire, as their capabilities are far beyond that of most mortals. Their potions imbue them with spells from the lore of metal, as well as giving them unique buffs that can be applied to themselves or nearby units, providing massive bonuses to attack or armor. Okay, so they're buff heroes. Sounds good. Lore metal stuff. The Astromancers are the accepted sorcerers of Grand Cathay, practicing the Celestial Dragon Emperor's favored lore of heavens and harnessing it to an expert level thanks to the natural affinity between their leader and the Azure Wind. After more than 5,000 years of perfecting the art, they are quite adept, and only more so when riding the battle aboard the Wu Jing War Compass. Oh, that's cool. We'll see the War Compass in a bit here. I'm curious how that affects them. It sounds to me more like maybe like the Tomb Kings riding the Sepulchre, something like that. They're kind of like a slow-moving artillery piece that helps them generate extra winds of magic. So now we're going to get into their units. Let me take a sip of water here before I throw my voice out. Peasant Long Spearmen. Once again, we've seen all this in the trailer. The backbone of Grand Cathay is its people, and they are numerous beyond count. While the Celestial Dragon Emperor is wise and his children are benevolent leaders to the people under their command, they understand with the detachment of immortality that the one thing they will always have is more bodies. More men and women to man the battlements, more fighters to hold the line, more defenders to make the forces arrayed against them fight for every inch. Thus, the least trained armies of Grand Cathay are still a power to be reckoned with through sheer force of numbers. They sound like the Imperial Guard for Warhammer 40k. Unlike the hired soldiers or lower classes of other factions, the warriors of wind and field, as they are known, feel a fierce loyalty to their cause and the dragons that watch over them. They may buckle and even break, but they know their role. I like that. I like some sturdy, like the peasants of Bretonnia, the ones that actually they give weapons to. That's what they remind me of. Notable characteristics, like all melee units, their spearmen are Yang aligned, increasing their leadership and melee defense when within close proximity to a Yin unit, so a ranged unit. Their long spears give them fantastic charge defense. Makes sense. And then they're expendable. Yep, they're expendable. So they probably have the expendable trait. Jade Warriors, more interesting now. The Jade Warriors are Grand Cathay's line troops. They are the standing army, expertly trained and well equipped to defend from ogres, rebels, chaos, or anything else that might come wandering in from the west and north. Each city maintains its own regiment of Jade Warriors, and few make their home outside of one of the metropolises that that dot the landscape of Grand Cathay. In times of war, they will head to battle armed in numerous possible ways, collectively known as the Warriors of Jade and Steel. The ranged firepower of Grand Cathay is what breaks the enemy, but the Jade Warriors, so named for the Celestial Dragon Emperor's sacred stone, must hold the line and cut down enemies who think them weak. There's a sword and board and a halberd variant. There's also like a crossbow variant, which we'll look at in a bit. It's separated down here. Notable characteristics: long trained to defend Grand Cathay against the relentless assaults from beyond the Grand Bastion. Jade Warriors adopt a defensive stance when immobile, making them harder to charge and kill. Okay, I mean, does that just mean they have a charge defense against large or all? Not sure. Or maybe they have a new type of passive ability. This builds as they remain that way. Okay, it is a new ability. Taking the lay of the land and betting in to fend off the next attack, further increasing their charge resistance and armor. Nice. That's cool. That's a cool ability. And while the halberd wielding variant is unable to block missile fire due to the lack of shields, it is no less adept at betting in to take a charge head on and destroy any force foolish enough to challenge them. I'm excited to see what they do with that. And then, alright, one step up now. The Celestial Dragon Guard, all golded out, looking sick. Their elite soldiers are officially the Legion of the Dragon Emperor, his loyal defenders. As the Eastern Empire has expanded, more and more Dragon Guard have been added to the Celestial host, which now numbers enough that they can be dispatched to battlefields all over the East. Their arrival represents an exponential increase in power for the army, not least for the morale boost it gives the soldiers to see such a direct connection to their Emperor. Okay, so they're anti-large, got it. Yep, they have probably charge defense against all, which means the Jade Warriors probably just have charge defense against large. And they have smaller unit models, makes sense, than the Jade Warriors by comparison. So, missile units here. I'm not going to bother to read this. I think we all get what archers do. They're expendable as long as they're peasant archers. I love the female models. I think they look great. Yeah, and they have very low armor piercing is what they're saying. Now we're going to get to something cool. The Iron Hail Gunners. The closest we can get to an old world shotgun, the Iron Hail Gun is a short-range blunderbuss that can rip through almost anything if positioned correctly. Think of it very similar to some of the Vampire Coast units. The gunners themselves are lightly armored, making them vulnerable if surprised, and quite the glass cannon of a unit. However, should they bring their guns to bear even for a moment, never mind a sustained period, it spells doom for even the heaviest warriors. Let's see. Heavy armor piercing. Their range is short. Let's see. Yep, got it. Alright, Crane Gunners. We've seen these guys. They look like the Jezzails from the Skaven. The mighty Crane Gun requires 2 people to lift, set up, and fire. One is positioned at the trigger, ready to sight and shoot anything at a massive range. The other carries the tower shield on which the gun rests, steadying the shooter as well as providing built-in cover. It is a specialist device for the highly trained, but it can be devastatingly effective when properly employed. Range and precision are nothing to scoff at, especially if they are pointed at your head. It'll outrange anything but artillery. Heavy armor piercing, and they also, have shields, so they're a shielded ranged unit, which is always nice. And then 2 for the price of 1, bargain, got it. Alright, Jade Warriors, they have their crossbow variants, but they're armored, and will fight. I would think of them more like quarrelers from the dwarves. If they get into melee, they can fight back, but yeah, I look forward to fielding just tons of these guys. And then the Celestial Dragon Crossbowmen have the same thing, except these guys are shielded. So they are like, depending on their range and their armor piercing, it says here their bolts are armor piercing and their shields keep them protected. But these guys might be the preeminent. I always would compare them to, I believe, like the Dark Shards from the Dark Elves, but more armored, better melee stats in all areas, better leadership, perhaps even greater range. They're going to be sick and probably expensive to boot, so probably not spammable in multiplayer, but I can't wait to play them. They sound awesome. So Grand Cathay's Cavalry and Chariots. We got the Peasant Horsemen, picture a la, Bretonia, something like that. They're yeomen is how I'm thinking they'll play. They have Vanguard, super fast, got it. Jade Lancers, here we go. Put a Jade Warrior with all their training, all their armor, and all their power on a horse, and this is what you get. So you get your kind of your Silver Helm style cavalry, very similar to the High Elves is what I'm imagining. The Jade Lancers, they'll probably be at that tier, that kind of tier 2. I feel. I don't think it'll be that. Like, you'll probably use them. I usually skip over Silver Helms in multiplayer. I usually skip over Silver Helms in single player. You know, Dragon Princes are right there. I don't know. They probably won't be your most exciting unit, but who knows? Maybe they'll be sick. They're hardier than factions cover some sort. This is what we want right here. The Great Longbow Riders, and that's the dragon horses that we see right here, and that's what I wanted to get to. The dragon-blooded who are yet to rise to their own prominence or prefer a place within the celestial host for the honor it brings often become great Longbow Riders. Flying to battle alongside other elements of the celestial host, they are a solution to endless problems on the battlefield, from enemy flyers to the hardiest of ground troops. So, while Grand Cathay is often focused on dealing damage from afar, anything in the way of the great Longbow Riders is unlikely to survive for long. They probably have huge charge bonus, big weapon strength, good melee attack. That's what I'm expecting. Their speed, the power of their charge, and the strength of their armor is unmatched. They're super heavily armored, it sounds like. Very fast, great charge. Cool. Such is the strength of the Longbow charge that enemies have been known to flee in fear before they are even beaten. So I'm guessing they either cause terror or they have some unique contact effect. So I'm expecting them to be sick. Very similar to, you know, Pegasus Knights for Bretonnia. But maybe stronger than that. Maybe less speed. Maybe they hit harder, more sustainable, but maybe less unit models. I don't know. We'll have to see how that shakes loose. Now we're getting into the Terracotta Sentinels, the big boys that we've seen. Let me go ahead and read this while I'm already here. Grand Cathay's ancient protectors, the Terracotta Sentinels, are remnants of an era long past, when the Celestial Dragon Emperor was an active leader in the nation's armies. Tales of their creation range from the believable to the legendary, that each was a personally blessed soldier of the Dragon Emperor and a great army to fend off chaos in its earliest years. True or not, they stand sentinel over all of Cathay, often silent and still for centuries, overlooking paddy fields or partially submerged in rivers, or even as stanchions in the great bastion itself. But the light within will burn, and the statue will finally move if summoned to a nearby threat. The ultimate Cathayan defense of their settlements and armies, laying waste to anything unlucky enough to make contact with it. Truly alien to most of the armies of the world, and either impossibly massive or an ancient enemy, it causes deep terror in the hearts of any who array against it. It causes terror. As happy destroying steam tanks and city gates as it is laying waste. So it might have a bonus versus large and a bonus versus infantry, which would be sick. Or it could just be great armor piercing and a bonus versus infantry. That's how you could interpret that, I feel. Next up, we've got the Flying War Machines, the Sky Lantern, the smaller one. They're often crewed by magistrates or other commanders that can oversee and direct the troops below, using a complex system of fans and smoke. However, they are also crewed by 4 crane gunners sitting in an armored carriage held aloft by the balloon itself, in a place thanks to the ever-burning vermilion warbird, which I hope we'll be able to see like in some sort of animation or something. It is generally agreed they have a lot more fun than their landlocked cousins. While glacially slow to move around the battlefield, it provides a much-needed vantage point for troops below, allowing them to spot enemies hiding in foliage and giving them a morale boost. That is cool. They can reveal stalked units, perhaps, and give a leadership buff. The crane gunners are truly deadly. Nothing is between them and their targets. They do not have to stop to fire, and they can see all from above. Sounds cool, depending on their range. You know, it could be anywhere. It could be 180, it could be 225, something like that. Wouldn't be out of the question. As flying units armed with gunners, both this and the Sky Junk are yin aligned. So you put them over top of your melee units, and then they get the yin and yang buff. And then now we move up to the Sky Junk, the much bigger warship. It's a simple battlefield unit. Its humongous size supports great guns that project shrapnel at oncoming hordes, wiping out whole battle lines. Within the armored carrier beneath the main balloon are a host of bombs ready to be dropped on those below. During times of great danger, fleets of Sky Junks are seen floating from the Great Bastion, moving steadily towards the latest threat and fully intending to wipe it out. So it sounds like they drop bombs like gyrocopters. They have some sort of, forward-facing gun. But do they also have crane gunners as well? That remains to be seen. Packed with soldiers that spew fire rain rockets. Okay. Can drop makeshift bombs. And slow and near useless once out of ammunition. It's nevertheless an incredibly... Okay. Yeah, I could see that. Like, even the gyrocopters, gyro bombers, you can use them to rear charge once they run out of ammo. Chase things off the battlefield. This thing will be so slow that I can't... yeah, it just won't do anything once it runs out of ammo. It's very interesting. Now we got the artillery and war machine. So I think we all get what a cannon does here. Flaming, well, it's not quite a cannon. But they're mobile, probably more functioning more like the flame cannons of the dwarves or the grand cannons. This is what I wanted to get to, the Wujing War Compass. Perhaps the oddest part of Grand Cathay's armory to an outsider, this miniaturized version of the Great Compass, engraved into the floor of the Celestial Court high above Weijing, is a powerful tool for manipulation of the elemental winds. Imbued with the power of the heavens and intricately designed as a weapon of war, meteors and lightning storms are summoned in its wake. While expensive to build and maintain, they're a truly unique weapon. I see them playing a very similar role, as we said, to the Tomb Kings. And I kind of think of them also like from the Empire. God, what are they called? Oh my God, my brain is going blank. You guys know what I'm talking about. The buggy chariots that shoot lasers. God, I haven't used them in so long I forgot what they're called. But that's what they remind me of. They're kind of a janky chariot being pulled around that do long-range spell sniping. So, remains to be seen whether or not this will be great. Definitely a centerpiece unit you're going to have to protect. We just have to see how much value it can accrue with these spells. A mounted spellcaster with access to unique long-range spells that deal extreme damage to enemy formations. More than capable of tearing up the ground and crashing headlong into enemy forces, making it a Yang aligned unit, but one with significant range prowess. So you can use it as like a bit of a chariot, I suppose. And then regains its own power with increased speed thanks to control over the elemental winds. Very cool. And then the fire range rocket here. Hellstorm rocket battery, I think we all get what this does. Is there anything here that's worth knowing? You could put melee units near it to protect it like you usually do in any battle, some cheap spears or something, and that will increase its reload speed. That's very interesting. And they're hard to wipe out because they have a high like crew model count. That's very smart. That's cool. And there you have it, the massed forces of Grand Cathay ready to defend the world from chaos. Got it, guys. So this is a pretty cool reveal. You know, it kind of felt to me like maybe we're missing something. But what do we really have? We have two great artillery pieces. You've got a centerpiece kind of magic-based unit, which I guess you could call an artillery piece. You've got two excellent flying units that are very diverse and function as two totally different things. You've got one giant centerpiece unit, one large guy. You know, I kind of think of the Tomb Kings, who have like an incredibly complete roster. Between the Bone Giant, the Necrofex Colossus, the Tomb Scorpion, the Hierophant. What's that called? The Hyro Titan. God, I haven't used him in a long time either. And I feel like I'm even forgetting one. Oh, the Kimrian War Sphinx. That's 5 giant centerpiece units for an army. Cathay only has one, but let's hope that they add more in the future. Another, you know, you've got Flying Monstrous Cav and regular Cav. Let's keep that in mind. You've got at least 4 different types of ranged units. You've got Peasant Bowmen, you've got the Shotgun Bros, and you've got the Jade and Dragon Crossbowmen. And then you've got many tiers and many different types, or well, 3 tiers and many different varieties of Peasant, Jade, and Dragon infantry. You've got 2 different really good hero types, 2 different really diverse lore types. And by diverse, I just mean that they function very differently. They'll really change how you play on the battlefield. And then 2 very interesting and powerful lords. I think that's great. I'm very happy with the roster reveal. And in time, with DLCs, we'll get, you know, maybe monk warriors who could get like monkey units. Could get the big stone lions. You could see jade vampires. There's all sorts of things kind of like tangentially in the lore that could make their way into the rosters of the Grand Cathay. So I'm excited by that. Guys, I'm gonna err on the side of caution. I'm not gonna play this video. You guys, I'm sure, have seen it already and know where to watch it. But I hope you enjoyed this just little run through of what we come to expect for Cathay. Not really any hot takes here. I don't have any hot takes. I just want to play the game at this point. I'm excited for everything I've seen. Community can kind of get up in arms over small details, and sometimes rightfully so, and sometimes it's a little foolish. But I am, for the most part, very happy with everything I've seen. I think in this trailer here, which we're not going to watch, there is a bit of a siege battle. You can kind of see it on the banner up here, making the game look like maybe they haven't changed sieges that much, which is one of the things in the game that kind of needs to change, or at least be improved in its functionality. Less bugs, less weirdness. You know, I've had these bugs in the game. I've been playing since like day one, Total Warhammer 1, and some of these bugs are still in the game. So I'm hoping that they fix that. Still, one wall sieges, kind of lame. But maybe that's something they're working on even as we speak. I want to give them the benefit of the doubt, CA that is, until we see the finished product. But guys, that's going to be it for me today. Thank you so much for watching. My name is Brett, channel's Goodtalk Gaming, and as always, y'all, I'll see you in the next one. Take care.